All right, Shalom. We're going to give all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai by Hashem Lakar Kodash. We're saying double honors to our apostles and elders here at Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the Lord's hopefully elect. So another class session, and the highlight is going to be Revelation chapter 16, or the three unclean spirits like frogs that's spoken about in the book of Revelation. And that's talking about the three city states, which is Vatican, which represents the spiritual side. Then you got London, which represents the financial side, and then you have America, which represents the military side. Those are those three unclean spirits like frogs, as we're going to read, and we're going to just highlight what a city-state is and how it was founded. And I have a few clips I'm going to play, and I'm really going to let the clip speak for itself, but the information is deep. In summary, when these city-states were formed, they was formed to basically play as God on the earth. As the definition, a city-state is a political system consisting of an independent city having sovereignty over contiguous territory, serving as a centre and leader of political, economic, and cultural life. So what that is saying is that these city-states will physically and geographically abide around a landmass or around the area, but it's its own entity basically. And they control, they have their own rules, they have their own laws, and they control everything basically. So they basically operate as gods. And when you go to the origins of it, it was founded by Esau, Edom, Amalek, because it deals with the Freemasonry. And each one has played a part into, you could basically say, bringing the world to World War III. But it's all prophecy because England or Britain, in the end, is going to hate the whore, and it's going to lead to destruction of whatnot. So, I got that. So go ahead, brother, on that Revelation.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 16, right? And we're going to start at the 12th verse. It says, "And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water there was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared."
And that's happened as we speak. The Euphrates River has almost completely dried up, and Russia is building a bridge to have easier access to get to Iran. So there's literally prophecy in your face, but continue.
Verse 13, "And I saw three unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet."
Right, and that's what we're going to explain, those three unclean spirits like frogs. Out of the mouths of the beast. All right, the beast represents NATO and the EU, and America is included, and America is Rome. So this is all forming out of, it's basically going to tell you that they all are on the same accord. And with these three city-states, they have basically ruled the world. All the while they rule in their own empire. Just like when you think about DC, the reason it's known as District of Columbia is because it's its own, you could say, entity, it's its own empire, right? So they have their own rules, and they dictate and control, you could say, the world, right? On the military side, spiritual side, because that's where the Roman Catholic Church spawned out of, and then the financial side. This is how they control the money, dealing with the U.S. dollar and all that, did away with the cold currency and all that. Everything, the situation you're in now stems from the workings behind these three unclean spirits. You keep, read the verse 14.
Okay, verse 14, "For they are the spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of the great day of God Almighty."
Right, so it's going to lead to World War III. So let's let the video play. This is short, just an introduction to them.
The answer to this puzzling question can be found within the boundaries of 3 of the world's most powerful cities. Those 3 cities belong to no nation and pay no taxes. They are Washington's District of Columbia, which is not part of the city of Washington or of the United States, the inner city of London, which is not part of London or England, and Vatican City, which is not part of Rome or Italy. These cities, called city-states, have their own independent flag, their own separate laws, and their own separate identity.
Vatican City is in fact a state, the smallest principality in the world. It lies on the banks of the Tiber, completely surrounded by the city of Rome. Its status as a separate state emerged from the Lateran Agreements of February 1929. It has its own newspaper, postal service, radio and television station, its own flag, and a population of about 1,000.
The Vatican also has its own army of Swiss guards, and it even has its own prison. Grayson.
Alright, so that's just an introduction to those 3. Like I said, there's a lot of information on it. You can go look it up yourself if you want to get deeper. That's just an intro. I'm going to let the other video play on it. I think. Right. Okay, that's the same.
Their own separate laws and their own.
Sorry.
Geographically separate, the city-states of London, the Vatican, and the District of Columbia are one interlocking empire called Empire of the City. The flag of Washington's District of Columbia has 3 red stars, one for each city-state in the 3-city empire. This corporate empire of 3 city-states controls the world economically through London's inner city, militarily through the District of Columbia, and spiritually through the Vatican. The Constitution for the District of Columbia operates under a tyrannical Roman law known as Lex Fori, which bears no resemblance to the U.S. Constitution. When Congress passed the Act of 1871, it created a separate corporate government for the District of Columbia. This treasonous act allowed the District of Columbia to operate as a corporation outside the original Constitution of the United States and outside of the best interests of American citizens. A sobering study of the signed treaties and charters between Britain and the United States exposes a shocking truth. The United States has always been, and still is, a British Crown colony. King James I was famous not for just changing the Bible into the King James Version, but for signing the first Charter of Virginia in 1606. That charter granted America's British forefathers a license to settle and colonize America. The charter also guaranteed that future kings and queens of England would have sovereign authority over all the citizens and colonized land in America stolen from the Indians. After America declared its independence from Great Britain, the Treaty of 1783 was signed. That treaty specifically identifies the King of England as the Prince of the United States and contradicts the belief that America won the War of Independence. Although King George III of England gave...
So with that, just to show that's why America is known as a corporation, because you belong to, you could say, they say England or the Vatican, right? And so a lot of people think that 1776 was the so-called Declaration of Independence, but actually, and that's, if you look it up, that's actually when the so-called Illuminati started. But right after that, they declared that you basically always are owned to England, right? And what I got here, and the reason why Britain is so important is because she's one of the 10 horns of the witch will soon hate the whore, right? So eventually the same power structure that this system was set up is going to turn on her, and Britain is a important place, in the scriptures. So England So just look up Great Britain and the UK, um, England, which is the landmass where London is. Okay, it's considered Britain still, just all of these together. So Britain and London, you could say, are connected, even though physically they're connected. But you got London there, who operates as a city-state. And I'm just highlighting the Britain just because she highlighted the Britain and basically says that the whore is owned by the Britain, you can say, and that as time progresses, she's going to end up hating the whore, as we're going to read. So leads to World War III, as we read in Revelation 16. So just to continue.
Gave up most of his claims over his American colonies. He kept his right to continue receiving payment for his business venture of colonizing America. If America had really won the War of Independence, they would never have agreed to pay debts and reparations to the King of England. When Congress passed the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, the U.S. President was made subservient to the King of England. The 13th Amendment is called the Title of Nobility Amendment and forbids U.S. presidents and their officials from using royal titles like king or prince or baron. For some mysterious reason, the 13th Amendment, which was ratified in 1810, no longer appears on current copies of the Constitution. America's blood-soaked War of Independence against the British bankrupted America and turned its citizens into permanent debt slaves of the king. In the War of 1812, the British torched and burned to the ground the White House and all U.S. government buildings and destroyed ratification records of the U.S. Constitution. 1 century later, a corrupt U.S. Congress committed the biggest theft in world history. They passed Paul Warburg's Federal Reserve Act in 1913, handing over America's gold and silver reserves and total control of America's economy to the Rothschild banksters. Most Americans still believe that the Fed, or Federal Reserve, is the government. It is not. The Fed is a privately owned banking system whose majority Class A shareholders are the Rothschilds, Warburgs, Kuhn and Loeb, J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, Israel Seif, and the Lehman Brothers. This private banking cartel is the Fed and is never audited and never pays taxes. They print and design America's money, which displays their symbols of an Egyptian pyramid, a Masonic all-seeing eye, and the words "In God We Trust." Who exactly is the God they trust? They also collect American taxpayers' money through the IRS. Then they loan it back again with interest to pay for roads, bridges, and other public. Most U.S. citizens believe that the United States is a country and that the President is the most powerful man on earth. The United States is not a country. It is a corporation, and the President is President of the corporation of the United States. He and his elected officials work for the corporation, not for the American people. Since the United States is a corporation, who owns the corporation of the United States? Like Canada and Australia, whose leaders are prime ministers of the Queen, and whose land is called Crown Land, the United States is just another Crown colony. Crown colonies are controlled by the empire of 3 city-states. At the center of each city-state is a towering, phallic-shaped stone monument called an obelisk that points skyward. In D.C. city-state, the obelisk, known as the Washington Monument, was dedicated to Freemason George Washington by the Freemason Grand Lodge of the District of Columbia. The Secretive Brotherhood of Freemasons laid the Washington obelisk's cornerstone in 1848 and contributed 22 Masonic memorial stones. 250 Masonic lodges financed the Washington Monument obelisk, including the Knights Templar Masonic Order. At the heart of London city-state is a 187-ton, 69-foot-tall Egyptian obelisk called Cleopatra's Needle. It was transported from Egypt and erected on the banks of the River Thames. In Vatican City, another Egyptian obelisk towers high above St. Peter's Square.
Right. Like I said, the information is, you could almost say, endless to break it down. But what they're breaking down is that this world is owned by the wicked elite, right? And the three unclean spirits like frogs. So if I read that verse 14 again, it said, "For they are spirits of devils, working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world to gather them to battle of the great day of Yahweh Almighty." And remember, America, or the District of Columbia, which is isolated, even though it's in America, it has its own district, it has its own rules, it has its own regulation, right? It has its own. It's not even bound by the Constitution. It has its own constitution, right? That is the military force that's going to lead this world into a world war, but simultaneously, the mother, which is Britain, is going to hate the whore. They're going to hate America, right? Because they're going to turn their back on this place, and that's just show proof that in this land you're not free. You all are just slaves. We are all slaves. Like London is the financial part. That's when the Rothschilds. That's when they manipulated to get what the gold currency done away with. So now everybody is adept to the dollar, which is a debt. The fact that you have it is proof that it was loaned to you, and now you are just pieces of paper working for a corporation, working for the wicked elite. You understand? So these three city-states are basically like gods. That's why you just can't drive into the Vatican. What's the big deal? I'm in Rome. No, that's a whole different world in itself. Because that's high. That's high wickedness at a high place. That's where the Roman Catholic Church came out of. You know what I'm saying? And then you got London. That's the finance part. Okay. If you read that Revelation for me, 17. Slide.
This is the book of Revelation, chapter 17, and the 5th verse. It reads, "And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore dost thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is."
Now that's we're talking about Rome, which I have the picture here. There's 7 heads and the 10 horns, right? Which he's going to explain. But these were all Edomite empires, and Rome was one of those heads. So it was and is not, because it had to disappear be wounded for a minute, and yet is, because it's back today, but it's not being called Rome. The Roman Empire is being called America. Okay, so that's the mystery, which we know and the Christians don't. All right, you can keep going.
Verse 9. "And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. There are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space."
Right. So at the time of John the Revelator on the Isle of Patmos, he was alive during the Roman Empire. So the one that is, which was the Romans, which was going to come back, and later was the America, and the ones that was left to pass was the British. Okay. And it's going to talk about the 8th, which is Rome. It's just back again, but it's called America. It's a part of the head, because as we explained, Revelation 20 tells you that she was the head. Oh, sorry, it was Revelation 13 that says it was as if it was wounded to death, because it was shunned or oppressed for 1,000 years, and then it came back and you could say reinvented itself and came back into power by way of the Renaissance period to what you see today, to America. You keep going, buddy.
What's the next?
Come on.
"And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th and is of the 7th and goes into perdition."
Right. So it says, even though it was 7 heads, it said 8 is one of the seven. It's talking about the Roman Empire, which was reincarnated again as America. That's the mystery. It was brought back forth. That's why everything's based off of the Roman Empire. From that monument, what they call it, the obelisk, all of that goes back to the Roman Empire. Okay, and it's falling like the Roman Empire. This is that fourth beast. When you read 2nd Esdras 11, when you read Daniel chapter 7, the last beast before the kingdom has to be in rulership before this place goes down. And it's back. It's known as the Roman Empire, but today it's called America. All right.
Verse 12.
And NATO and the EU, like I should say that. America's a part of NATO, right? And the EU's a part of NATO. And that's why they're all connected, because those 3 city-states are in those areas, right? Go ahead. Sorry.
And the 10 horns which thou sawest, the 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast.
Right, and the 10 kings, and this is why Britain is important. The 10 kings is referring to the foundation. The 10 kings, yeah, the 10 horns represents the foundation of NATO. NATO was originally formed with 10 nations. It was also known as the European Economic Community. Right, they even have something called the Treaty of Rome. All that's tied into the same thing. And amongst them is England. Okay, because they're the same landmass. Today they're known as, like I just had it. Britain, or Great Britain.
So that's question. So that's considered the UK, right? United Kingdoms.
Yes. So these are all like within Britain.
Right.
UK is referring to what they got right here. Ireland, yeah, England and London, Scotland. Wait, no, North Ireland, I guess. Well, that's what they got. Yeah, so yeah,
Right.
basically, yeah.
United Kingdom, United States.
Yeah. I think I have right here their relationships, the UK and the US relationships. I think I just wanted this first paragraph. It said relationships between the UK and the US have ranged from military opposition to close allyship since 1776. So here it is, you thought you were free in 1776, but they passed legislations to prove that you belong to Britain. Like you can't even, they're not even allowed to call themselves kings or princes or anything like that. So you're still a slave to Britain. The 13 colonies succeeded from the Kingdom of Great Britain and declared independence in 1776. By the 1880s, the U.S. economy has surpassed Britain's. In the 1920s, New York City surpassed London as the world's leading financial center. The two nations fought Germany together during the 2 world wars. In 1940, the two countries have been close military ties since the special relationship built as wartime allies with NATO and G7 partners. And the reason this is important is because, as we're going to read, when the mother is known as Britain, or you could say England, which gave birth to this whore, and eventually she's going to hate the whore. And that's basically what you're going to see. They're going to all turn to this place and say, we had enough of you, even though they gave birth to it. So, so where was I at? Okay, so that's one of the 10 horns. Where were you at? 12?
13.
Okay,
We can
yeah.
read 12 again.
Kind of.
Verse 12, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but received power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast.
Kind of. So that's why NATO is still here. You know, NATO was originally formed to combat the Soviet Union. But since the Soviet Union been disbanded, why is NATO still here? Well, that's because, actually it's the next verse. You can read that.
Verse 14. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called the chosen and faithful. So
it's going to be a war. This is the fourth beast that the Lord is going to rebuke as that lion in 2nd Esdras 11. This is the stone that's going to cast the feet and the toes at the feet. That's Yahushua. that stones of miry clay and iron. That's talking about Roman Empire. Daniel 7. That's when that fourth beast gets taken out, and then the new kingdom reigns forever and ever. It's all talking about right now. All right. The fourth beast is in power as we speak. It's known, like I said, many names in the scriptures, and they're gonna make war with Yahweh Shai, and they're gonna lose. And you can read that to 16.
Verse 15.
Well, just read the rest. Yeah.
And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For Yahweh hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth.
So the 10 horns will eventually turn on America. So, and that's happening as we speak. As you can see, Babylon is aiding a genocide in the Middle East, and she's the only one that really has the power to stop it, but she's fueling it, which is causing her allies to, and now she's trying to pick a fight with Iran. You know, this is all Ezekiel 38, which is causing her allies, bringing them in straits, because they got an agreement. If one goes to war, they all go to war. And if they want peace, but this whore said, no, we want war, now they getting drawn into it, and, you know, ties are being broken up, and it's going to lead them to hate this place, because she has the power to put an end to all this, but she refuses. But like the scripture says, it's the will of the Lord that's in their hearts to do that, right? So let me let this last play.
What did you say? The fourth beast was, I see number 4, Italy.
The fourth beast, I'm talking about like Daniel 7.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And this guy's going to explain this part shortly. Just showing you, highlighting again that everything goes back to really those 3 city-states, and that everybody's a slave, basically.
Kinds of law. This is a subject I love. I've been talking about this for years. There are 2 kinds of law on the earth that rule the whole world, but most people don't know that. All over the world, all governments are ruled by what is called civil law. Civil law goes back to a Latin word, civili, which goes back to the word illy. Oh God, we could go on for hours on this stuff. Civil law, which is called in all countries the law of the land. So you say, well, you can't do that because that's against the law of the land. The law of the land is civil law, Roman civil law, the law of the land. But there is a second law which also operates all over the earth identical. It's called UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. That is the law of God in the world of business. I don't care if you're in Japan, in Africa, in China, in Istanbul, Turkey. If you have a company, if you have a corporation, if you are doing business where you buy and sell and make money, you are operating on this earth under something called UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. Because if all countries worked on a different commercial code, then nobody could do business with anybody. You couldn't trust Japan to pay you. Japan couldn't trust America to pay them for the cars, because everybody has their own laws. Under the Caesars of Rome, they established under Caesar that all nations in the empire that do business, everybody plays on a level field. If you do business in Africa with China, you pay them. And if Africa does business with American companies, you pay them. You pay. Whatever it is you're doing business, you don't mess around. The most severe law in this world is called UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. It's the Bible of business on the earth. Uniform Commercial Code. Uniform Commercial Code is based directly on Vatican canon law, on the Roman canon law. Consequently, when a ship pulls into port, it pulls in and stops, and it's called in its berth. The ship is now in its berth. Because it is on the law of the high seas, or commercial maritime, UCC commercial law, rules the seas. So when the ship pulls into its berth, the first thing the captain must do is to present a certificate of manifest to the port authorities, which means that the port authorities need to know how much is on this ship that you're bringing into our country and our economy. How many TVs, how many cars, what are you bringing, how much are you bringing into our economy? So you have to have a certificate of manifest of what is the value of your ship here. What are you doing? Consequently, when you are born, you come out of your mother's water. Therefore, you must have a birth certificate, a certificate of manifest, because you are a corporation-owned item. You are a human resource. This goes back to the German Nazi concept that every human coming out of their mother's water must be birthed. And therefore you have to have a certificate of manifest to see how much this individual is going to make for us in our new world order. I'm telling you that until you understand the laws, the symbols, the emblems, what these words mean, you're never going to suspect how far gone we really are. Did you know, for instance, that your birth certificate is a security on the stock exchange in the New York stock market? Did you know that? Because if you order your birth certificate, get a new one, order your birth certificate, it only costs you, sometimes it's free. It only costs you a few dollars. Order your birth certificate. On your birth certificate, all birth certificates in this country, on the bottom, it will tell you this is printed on security papers. Do not accept if not on full color security paper. Then on the right-hand corner, you will always have a series of numbers, red numbers, printed on the birth certificate. Those numbers are a security stock exchange number on the World Stock Exchange. You go to any good stock office and ask them, check these numbers in your computer and see how much your stock is worth, the certificate. And they will check it on the New York Stock Exchange and find your birth certificate is a stock on the stock exchange in America. Why? Because you are worth money to the international bank that bought you in 1930. We need to wake up. This is serious stuff.
Yeah, so, and I heard the apostles talk about it all the time. Basically, you're a slave. When you're born, you get a birth certificate, and what that is, that shows that you are going to work for the corporation, and you are a slave to the wicked elite. And it's all ran by those three. Goes back to those three city-states, the Vatican, London, or Columbia, District of Columbia. That's why you see the word Columbia everywhere, because that goes back to, I forget which exactly, but yeah, that's how this devil operates, off of witchcraft. So you are a slave here, and this is all done by the wicked elite. But the ultimate end goal is that this whore is going to lead this World War III, and it's going to cause these countries to break up, and everybody's going to end up hating this place, which is going to lead to World War III. But those are those three unclean spirits like frogs. You can read in Psalm 64. You can read that to like 5, I guess. No, to 6.
All right, it's the book of Psalm chapter 64, verse 1. And it reads to the chief musician, the Psalm of David. Hear my voice, O Yahweh, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword, and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them? They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search, both the inward thought of every one of them. and the heart is deep.
Right. That's why you have something called the wicked elite. These are your international bankers, your Rothschild families, and these are the ones that secretly pull all the strings to get people to this point to be slaves forever, because this is their ultimate end goal. So you basically are owned in this society, and on paper, and then their final stamp is going to be that chip. Okay, you go ahead and read that Jeremiah.
This is the book. Starting at 11.
That's fine.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 15, verse 11. Because you were glad, because you rejoice, O you destroyers of my heritage, because you are grown fat as the heifers, as grass, as the bellows, as bulls. Your mother shall be sore confounded, she that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert.
Right, that mother is going to be Great Britain, which is going to be ashamed, because you got to remember, this is the origins of NATO, right? And she's going to be ashamed at the whore because of what she's going to cause all of their allies to do. So even though America came out of Britain, and Britain basically gave birth to America, she's going to end up hating the whore. So all of these countries that she allied with are going to end up turning back and shooting their arrows, which you can read the verse 14.
Because of the wrath of Yahweh, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hissed at all her plagues. Put yourselves in array against Babylon, round about all ye that bend the bow. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she has sinned against Yahweh.
Right, so in summary, all of this great witchcraft that these wicked elite has exercised themselves in behind the scenes, right, to work witchcraft, to work these miracles, to operate as gods on the planet with their 3 city-states, the Lord is going to ultimately bring it back on them, and they're going to end up destroying this place. So I'll just read it again. Revelation 16:13 says, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, Rome, and out of the mouth of the beast, okay, NATO, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, which is ultimately the Roman Catholic Church. And it's those 3 entities that basically control the world: the financial, spiritual, and the military side. And that's talking about those city-states, which, like I said, there's a lot of information on that, on the witchcraft and the wickedness they do, but they basically operate as their own entities within sovereignty. They have their own land, they have their own rules, they have their own jails, they have their own everything. They have their own kings, princes, and it's those 3 that run basically the world. But a lot of people actually don't know that. They just think the Vatican is a part of Rome, which it is, but on paper it's not. You can't just ride through there. Okay, you can get locked up, and you ain't got no rights. DC operates on its own thing. It's not bound by the Constitution, and everybody in this country basically is a slave to Great Britain, right? Which is the mother, the mother of the whore. See? But yeah, those are the videos. So that was basically just highlighting a brief summary of what those are. Like I said, you could do more research. Those videos are much longer to go deeper into names and how they came about to take away the dollar. Take away the gold to make everybody a slave to the dollar. All those same families operating out of those same 3 city-states to get to this point of putting people in slavery and take away your freedom economically, on paper, literally, right? So those miracles, and it's going to ultimately lead to the destruction. But that was it. Unless y'all had anything. Okay, Well, so those that's the breakdown on that. Well, willing, those edifying. And to the next time we say shalom.
Shalom.